of the media. Good afternoon to colleagues of Parliament, and a very good afternoon to South Africa. Our apology for starting a bit late, as we had to tie up a number of processes that are currently running, as you would appreciate. We are managing what is evidently a very serious and mammoth task to help birth the existence of a seventh administration. And that process inevitably invokes the three arms of the state to work collaboratively in service of the co-creation of the seventh administration. So it's a very serious undertaking to be able to ensure that as we do that, indeed we live true to the spirit of our Constitution that defines the three arms of the state and also defines clearly the transition intervals that assist in renewal of mandates of a government that, in line with the spirit of the Constitution, will be able to draw legitimacy through the will of the people. And that will of the people has just been clearly expressed on the 29th of May, 2024, to mandate new public representatives that must represent South Africans, 62 million people, to be represented by 400 members of the National Assembly and 90 members of the National Council of Provinces. And true again to the testament of our Constitution, when you look at the preamble of our Constitution, it reflects a very telling statement about what core creativeness of building a country draws its energy from. It says, through this Constitution, we the people, recognizing the injustices of the past, honoring those who laid down their lives and sacrificed for our country, and also make commitment that as a diverse nation, we will elect a government on the basis of the will of the people. And we do so through the directly elected members by the people to represent our aspiration, address the injustice of the past, free the potential of every South African to make sure that as a country we are able to count ourselves amongst the nations of the world. And that's the moment we are in today, to be able to witness and usher in that seventh administration. Indeed, today marks a significant moment in our nation's democratic journey as we stand on the cusp of the inauguration of the seventh term of the Democratic Parliament. The first sittings of the National Assembly in the National Council of Provinces represents not only the establishment of this new parliamentary term, but also the institutionalization and the expression of the electoral will of the people. Over the past months, the administration of Parliament has undertaken extensive preparatory work to ensure a seamless transition from the sixth term to the seventh term of Parliament. This has been a pivotal moment for us as a nation, involving a delicate constitutional process that has not been without its challenges. Working collaboratively with the executive and the judiciary, we have surmounted these challenges to ensure the success of these important inaugural sittings of the two houses of Parliament. This collective effort underscores our commitment to upholding the democratic principles that underpin our Constitution and to ensuring that the will of the people is effectively translated into action. With each step in this constitutional process, from the elections, the declaration of results, the designation of elected members by the IEC, right up to the handover of the list of the new members by the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, to us as Parliament, marks not only the important transition to enable the setting of the administration, but deliver us right where we are now, at the cusp of yet another critical milestone in the history of our constitutional democracy. This diligent adherence to our constitutional framework ensures the legitimacy and integrity of our parliamentary system, paving the way for the new term that reflects the electoral will of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reflect on the dates that you are eagerly awaiting and what will happen on those dates. The dates of the first sittings have now been set by the Chief Justice of the Republic. Under the Constitution of the Republic, the Chief Justice plays an important role in the establishment of the new term of Parliament. It is the Chief Justice's responsibility to determine the dates for the first sitting and also set the dates for provincial sittings and to preside over these sittings with the support of the rest of the judicial arm across provinces. Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has diligently complied with this constitutional obligation, ensuring that the two houses of Parliament hold their first sittings within the 14-day period mandated by the Constitution. Many of you will recall the IEC declaring the results on the 2nd of June this year, and in terms of that process, within 14 days, both houses of Parliament must sit. And that 14 days is ending on Sunday, and here we are. The first sitting of the General Assembly will take place tomorrow here at the ICC, and the National Council of Provinces will be sitting on Saturday, the 15th. CTICC has now been declared as a precinct of Parliament. That is done in terms of the Powers and Privileges Act of Parliament of 2004, where it determines the seat of Parliament and also empowers the institution to define any place that it sits, to declare such a place as part of the precinct of Parliament. As you know, we have had a difficult situation in 2022 where Parliament has been engulfed with a fire that destroyed the National Assembly, both the old and the new wings of the Assembly. So the sitting here respond to those constraints and structural limitations of our current precinct by ensuring that we identify a venue that is suitable for such sitting. Many of you would ask, you normally sit at the City Hall. So what's the reason to sit at City ICC? The sitting at the City Hall, largely we sit on the basis of SONA, where it is a sit down. You have a fairly straightforward agenda, delivery of the state of the nation by the head of state. But here on the first sitting, it has got also other engagements that are part of the business of the day, and you need infrastructure that is requisite to support that. In case there must be voting processes, the arrangements for sitting members, the balloting process, and all of those. You wouldn't be able to do it in a venue like we use at the level of City Hall. So we had to find a venue that is much more conducive for such an undertaking. So this venue will be able to accommodate us to ensure that the 400 members of the National Assembly, together with their guests, together with other arms of the states, special guests, diplomats, the rest of the security establishment, and other departments of government that would have been invited as special guests to form part of that. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we on the reception of new members? We are quite excited that based on the list we have now received from the Chief Justice, Parliament has been interfacing with elected members and their respective parties to capture their details into the parliamentary system and making logistical arrangements for their travel and accommodation. Registration has begun as of yesterday, and so far we have successfully onboarded no less than 180 members. This is the statistics of this morning. As we sit here, it might be 200. We've got members currently there now, members who are currently being oriented, and the picture will keep on improving. Suffice to say that we are quite ready and our teams are in action to ensure that the smooth operations run as expected. We are also looking at additional members in terms of additional issues where members are also being taken through the orientation programs to familiarize them with the rules as well as constitutional processes that will unfold during the first sittings. So 2 o'clock, there are members sitting there. There will be others at 4 o'clock. There will be others at 5. And this is essentially designed to ensure that members are well prepared and informed about the procedures and responsibilities that would encounter in that sitting. We have also, as part of logistics setup, established a help desk to ensure that members will be assisted with their guests on any inquiry, including such matters as toll-free numbers, emails, and any other issues in our various help desks, including presence of our staff in various airports entry points of the Republic. On the first sitting of tomorrow, the first sitting of the National Assembly, that will commence with the swearing in of all designated members in attendance. So the first order of proceedings will be swearing in of members, and that swearing in will be presided by the Chief Justice of the Republic. Following the swearing in ceremony, the Chief Justice will also preside over the election of the Speaker of the National Assembly. Once elected, the newly appointed Speaker will take over the proceedings and preside over the election of the Deputy Speaker. These elections are crucial for the proper constitution of the National Assembly, as they ensure that the leadership structure is in place to guide the House functions and related duties of the day. So after swearing in, call for nominations for the candidates who would stand for position of the Speaker, and presiding over that, and also managing the process that is allowed in terms of the Schedule 3 of the Constitution, in terms of the process that ensues in the election. Should you have more than one member, there's a process that is already prescribed. Should there be only one nominee from the floor, with support as given and acceptance, and no other nominee that stands for that position, the presiding officer shall proceed and declare that member as duly elected as a Speaker of the National Assembly. The same procedure will happen in respect of the presiding over the election of a Deputy Speaker, of which the Speaker would now take seat and preside over the nomination, following the same procedure. Nominations from the floor, acceptance of nominations, related support process in accordance with the schedules that govern that. And should there be more than one candidate, the voting procedure indicates that a member who will be declared elected is a member that shall secure the majority of votes cast. Should there be no member that secures the majority of votes cast, the elimination procedure kicks in. Members that receive the lowest votes get eliminated until a member receives the majority of votes cast. That's the proceedings that would entail the constituting of a House by having a Speaker elected and a Deputy Speaker. Now, once the House is fully constituted, it's now able to discharge its responsibilities. And in that process, the next order of proceedings will be a call for the nominations of a candidate to be the President-elect of the Republic of South Africa. That will be the third order of proceedings in terms of the flow of election of office bearers. The same procedure will be followed as in accordance with the election of a Speaker, as well as the election of a Deputy Speaker, as well as the election of the President-elect of the Republic. That all would also be presided over by the Chief Justice. because other members will also be present to be able to form part in the voting process. So the Chief Justice will then assume the seat to preside over the election of the President-elect of the Republic. That business is all scheduled to take place tomorrow in the National Assembly. With regard to the National Council of Provinces, 54 members will be sworn in as a first order of business on Saturday, the 15th of June. Why 54 members? It's the members that represents provinces in terms of the permanent delegates that must be drawn in to represent all the provinces. So we've got 9 provinces. Each of those are 6 members that are permanent delegates. So 6 times 9 is 54. And then thereafter, you've got 4 delegates in each province that are classified as special delegates. So each province has got 10 in terms of the National Council of Provinces that constitute a house of 90 members. So on Saturday, the sitting would cover the 54 members. As you would have seen in other provinces, there are sittings that are reported widely having taken place today. Others are sitting tomorrow to make sure that the business of provinces enables the National Council of Provinces to be duly constituted and conduct its business of also, similar to National Assembly, electing the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces in accordance with the procedure I've outlined. Likewise, electing the deputy chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, including the chief whip of the National Council of Provinces. I have outlined the procedure on the voting infrastructure. We are currently busy setting up the voting infrastructure as well as the balloting process that will take place as the procedure for electing a speaker, a procedure for electing a deputy speaker, the same procedure for electing a president is by secret ballot. It's by secret ballot. So we need to prepare balloting infrastructure to be able to perform that undertaking as returning officers that assist the Chief Justice as a presiding officer over such proceedings. What are the new features of the first sitting? A new feature of the first sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces will be the performance of the national anthem by the full complement of the official parliamentary choir that consists of 30 choristers. And we're excited that we bring them back after being demobilized by COVID-19, people working at home in different areas. And many of you who would have been part of the media would have been accustomed to Parliament having its parliamentary choir. So the national anthem will now be sung by the parliamentary choir that has been organized. Additionally, representatives of diverse interfaith groups will offer their blessings at the beginning of the proceedings. This inclusive and ceremonial start aims to reflect the unity and diversity of our nation as we embark on this new term of Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item after the constituting of Parliament, the activation of members after being sworn in, the election of presiding officers, including President-elect, it then again draws our attention to the Constitution of the Republic that prescribes that after a candidate has been duly elected as President-elect of the Republic, that candidate must be sworn in to office within 5 days. So members are convened within 14 days. After that, within 5 days, the inauguration or swearing in rather of the President-elect of the Republic must take place within 5 days thereafter. Our duty will be to ensure that on the side of Parliament, we prepare all the members to assist them to attend the inauguration at the venue as determined, and as it stands, it appears that the 19th of June is a date for such undertaking within the 5 days after the election of a president-elect. We will ensure that all members of Parliament with one guest are transported to Parliament, accommodated, to make sure that they would also form part of witnessing the historical event of the swearing in of the President of the Republic for the 7th administration, and thereby ushering in the possibility of setting up a government that must manage the administration for the next 5 years. On the opening of Parliament, immediately after the inauguration, there would also be a date for an opening of Parliament. It's referred to the opening of Parliament, and it happens each and every transition after the election. So there will be what is called opening of Parliament address, similar to what you would have as SONA, but this one signifies and symbolizes the ushering in of the 7th term of Parliament. So we are hard at work preparing that to make sure that based on the outlines of the government agenda by the President-elect, what are the legislative priorities, what are the policy priorities that would underpin the focus of the 7th administration. So essentially that gives members the roadmap on some of the issues that they will be prioritizing to make sure that the work of the 7th administration runs smoothly. So all arrangements are currently being undertaken to make sure that the opening of Parliament address is in full swing, awaiting the determination of a date that will be set by the President of the Republic. Induction of program of members in terms of the work of Parliament, the parliamentary rules, the Constitution, and all the matters that pertain to orientating members. We have now scheduled a 4-day induction program that will commence on the 2nd of July and that will run until 5 July on a venue that we will still confirm, essentially to help members understand the core business of Parliament, their roles and responsibilities, members of the office bearers, the overview of members' ethics and disclosures, the House rules and joint, all the matters that form part of the instruments that enable members to operate in terms of the business of Parliament. We are also working on the tools of trade for new members to make sure that all of them are assisted to transition smoothly to unfamiliar environments to some of the members. Returning members, at least they have got their own familiarity, but we also appreciate that there are new members who would come for the first time. So enabling the tools of trade for them to be able to do their work will form part of what we are currently doing, including accommodation of members here in Cape Town, as well as in Pretoria when they go for the inauguration. We are also hard at work, ladies and gentlemen, on the issue of the difficulties we have on not having parliamentary building for the sittings of the houses, the committees, and offices of members. We have completed 155 offices as a replacement of the ones we lost through the fire. So we are hard at work now working on additional 54 offices so that each and every member of Parliament has an office. We envisage that we'll be able to complete that over the next 4 months to make sure that the additional 54 offices are also completed. That also includes committee rooms for members, while simultaneously we are hard at work at reconstructing the building of Parliament. On the budget for the establishment of Parliament, I know, Andy, you will ask that question. STP, how much is it going to cost? So I must tell you up front. As we speak, we have made provision for a budget of about 58 million rand to be able to manage this transition that we are undertaking, convening of these sittings, members that are taken to Cape Town, payment of their hotels, payment of all issues related to that. There are tools of trades and so on, including the cost for inductions and related matters. It's one thing to throw in figures. It's another to outline the figures contextually. What did it cost us to do exactly this in 2019? In 2019, we budgeted 43 million to undertake the transition of the 6th administration. Now in 2024, as we usher in the 7th administration, we have made a budget of 58 million. Why high figure? Is it high in any relative terms, in terms of the 5-year transition? You would ask. But without appreciating the contextual drivers of that, in 2019, we had no building of fire. We had no building to be able to undertake all of that. Now we had to create a precinct of parliament called City ICC. The cost of this venue, the number of days that you have to secure the building, right up until the 3 days after, would also contribute to that difference of 43 and 58 million. So that's the budget that we have put up for the management of the transition for the 7th Parliament. I would like to conclude, Program Director, by indicating to South Africans that Parliament of the Republic of South Africa stands ready to usher in the 7th administration to make sure that it navigates the birthing of the new administration that would lead Parliament of South Africa. We would like to thank the Chief Justice of the Republic, the cooperation we have received, the members of the executive, and members of the security cluster who are hard at work preparing that the event must run smoothly to make sure that the inaugural session, the logistics and related matters are meticulously undertaken. We are confident that the proceedings will unfold smoothly and effectively, marking the successful commencement of the 7th Democratic Parliament. We would like to express our gratitude to the key stakeholders who have been instrumental in this preparatory process. Our sincere thanks again to the Chief Justice, Office of the Chief Justice, to the Electoral Commission of South Africa, IEC, the Security Cluster, as well as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, the City of Cape Town, and the Cape Town International Convention Center for their cooperation, and to yourselves as members of the media, that you will keep South Africans informed right up until every stage is executed in accordance with the constitutional dictates as well as the rules of Parliament, as set by the Chief Justice. So this collaboration has been so invaluable in ensuring that we are ready to welcome and accommodate the new members of Parliament and also facilitate this historic moment of a transition to the 7th administration. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary to Parliament. Just to add, Secretary, that the Chief Justice will be arriving in Cape Town shortly this afternoon. And as part of the preparation for tomorrow and Saturday, he will conduct the swearing-in of retaining officers. Firstly, the chief retaining officer being the Secretary to Parliament, and of course assisted by the Secretary of the Secretaries of the both houses and the other officials who will be participating and working on the voting process that will be unfolding in both houses. Thank you very much, STP. We have just circulated the remarks that the STP was making in the WhatsApp group. Those who are not, I hope that all of us were on the WhatsApp group, and those who are not, we will use other channels, emails, MailChimp, to distribute that statement. Thank you very much. Can we then take questions? I'm going to start. These are just mention your name and then the house, media house that you are coming from. And then there is a roving mic starting from this side. So I'll take it. How many hands are up now? Starting from yourself, and then you will be the second one. You will be the fourth. You will be the fifth. So those will constitute the first round. Okay? In that order. Thank you.
Good afternoon, STP. Maloto Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Can you just give us an idea of the timing for everything? So I believe the National Assembly sittings starts at about 10 o'clock tomorrow. How long will the swearing in take? What time do you expect the presidential election to happen? And then for Saturday mornings, what time will the NCOP? It's just for planning purposes. Thank you.
ISTP, my name is Bulelani from SABC. Just for clarity, what is the quorum for tomorrow's sitting, and what will happen to members who do not come for the swearing in? Thanks.
My question was something similar, but also wanted to ask if those members who do not attend tomorrow, who do perhaps miss their swearing in, will they still be considered to be members of parliament, and would there be provisions for them to do their swearing in ceremony later, or to do it by alternative means? I'm sorry, Lady 76. Thank you.
And number 4.
Yes, thank you, SCP. Linda Ensel from Business Day. I'd just like to find out what security arrangements have been made in the light of, in the past, there's been a lot of rowdiness, storming of the podium. What security presence will there be in the hall on the day? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Atim Tana from Newsroom and RT, respectively. I just want to ask, in terms of the guests that are going to be present, do you have any international delegates? Do you have any leaders from within the continent and outside of Africa? And just perhaps if you could go through also the dignitaries that will be from within South Africa. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think that will be the first round. Just switch off the mic so that we don't have many mics on. Like I said, the Secretary to Parliament wears many caps in terms of this constitutional procedure that we'll be following in the two houses. And one of those chief caps that he's wearing is a Chief Returning Officer. So I will allow him to come and deal with the questions, and the other questions that maybe he will not be able to deal with, he will refer them to the secretaries of the houses. STP?
Thank you very much, Paul. How long will it take to conclude the business of tomorrow, and in particular the timelines for the election of the President-elect of the Republic? There is an order of business for tomorrow that would be read by the Chief Justice in terms of guidance for conducting the business of tomorrow. As I've outlined, in terms of the election of office bearers, the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and then thereafter the process for the election of the President. In the timelines we have, the sitting is starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, promptly, and we envisage that by 2 p.m. the process for the nominations and elections for the President of the Republic will take place. So I use the word we envisage precisely because if something involves voting and other related matters, we need to make sure that we could anticipate. That must also factor in possibility of a lunch hour for the session to be suspended so that the session can then resume after. But as per our plan, it is scheduled for 2 o'clock. Bulelani, what is the quorum for tomorrow? The quorum is outlined in Section 53 of the Constitution that says, for any decisions of Parliament pertaining to passing of bills and other matters, the majority of members of Parliament constitute a quorum. It says any other questions shall be decided on a quorum of 1/3 of members present. So 1/3 of members present constitute a quorum for tomorrow. That is 1/3 of 400 members of Parliament. So that's the minimum threshold you need to have to be able to curate, to conduct the business of the House in a duly constituted forum. The issue of swearing in of members, all members will be sworn in tomorrow. Those who have been accredited, who are present, have shown up. We have a list of gazetted members that will be sworn in tomorrow. And for members who have not arrived for swearing in, the door is not closed. So at a date determined again, it may be done by Chief Justice, it may be done by a designated judge by the Chief Justice to swear in other members at a subsequent date. So as and when those members shall present themselves, they will be sworn in. What security arrangements have been made with regards to the conducting of the business of the day? The rules as set by the Chief Justice govern the proceedings, and any other processes that he shall determine and communicate in the proceedings shall guide that. And Parliament has got its own internal management processes that normally gets present and operational to assist the proper sittings of the chamber and also guidance in the proceedings of the House. So that overall infrastructure is in place and will be activated accordingly at the direction of the presiding officer and or the speaker. Artie, any leaders from outside Africa and elsewhere? There is SONA. There is also the first sitting of a house. And we usually don't extend to many esteemed foreign dignitaries on these events, except people who would be designated guests to be able to attend that, be they come from the other arms of the state, be they come from various institutions, organs of state, and so on. So I am not sure of a foreign legend of dignitaries coming, but my colleagues, if as we update the schedules of confirmation, should that be part of any of our colleagues, will confirm that development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think you've dealt with all the questions, STP. The only guest that, international guest that we have, I think, will be international members of the international media. We have got local guests who are members of the media who will be operating here. We've got the guests of the new members of Parliament. We've got also the representatives of stakeholders that we've been working with in terms of the facilitation of these two important sittings. I think we'll get the next round and probably the last. So if you can use this opportunity and take advantage of it, because it might not come again. I will give priority to those who have not asked. And then I will give others who want second take. You will be the first, and then you will be the second. You will be the fourth. Why is Kaya FM standing this side? You want to make your presence felt. You are welcome. And then, where's the other hand? Are you the third or the fourth? No, I can only make such a determination whether you are the last or not. But I think you are the fourth. The fifth hand? Okay. Yeah, in that order.
Secretary George Wendell from Reuters, could you just give us a sense of how the voting will unfold practically? If there's more than one sort of candidate eligible who will be voted on, let's say if it's for the Speaker, for the President, for the Deputy Speaker, does the Chief Justice read out the votes, or does he just announce the winner? Does he, for example, say, you know, the winner is X and he's got Y amount of votes and second place got X amount of votes? Will it be done like that? Thank you.
Okay, the second hand.
And this is where Mike Kinana from the Sunday Times. I would like to confirm whether Parliament did indeed cancel arrangements for MK Party MPs, or is that door still open for them to still travel and be accommodated in Cape Town? I would also like to find out why is the NCOP sitting here when that chamber has not been affected by a fire as far as I know. Thanks.
Okay. The fourth one. Yes. The guest. Okay. I don't think we have the number yet because we are still capturing the number of guests that will be coming together with accompanying the members of Parliament.
Thank you so much. Pito Malemane, Kaya News. Yes. Secretary, is there a date when will Parliament be completed, the refurbishing or the repair, after an announcement that 58 million rand has been spent on this? But on Parliament, the old Parliament, when is it going to be reopened? Is there a date? And then secondly, an update on the MK Party. Are members coming or not? Have they issued a notice to Parliament that they are not attending? Just clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay. I think that was the last question, but I see Andisiwe still has additional question.
Sorry, it's just a quick one. Are members of the public, will they be accepted? Will there be tickets, or is it just the invited guests that are allowed to come tomorrow?
Okay. That was you want to be the last one? Oh, I thought your hand was up. Oh, okay. Okay. So that was the last round. Thank you very much, STP.
So thank you very much. I would share the responses with Mr. Kaso, and Advocate Pindela will respond on the issue of NCOP, save to reinforce the distinction on ordinary sittings in a house that is conducive for such sitting versus the event that would be unfolding today and tomorrow. I mentioned earlier on that This also involves a lot of processes that ordinarily in the City Hall you would not. And if you look at NCOP, what its size is, the voting processes, that must also, you also need to look at that reality in terms of the conduciveness. So the Secretary of NCOP would further elaborate on the NCOP question. The issue of voting procedure, how it will be done, who will read the winners, I'll ask Mr. Kaso to indicate on that issue. The cancellation of logistics, was it done or not done by Parliament in regards to members of MK Party? Indeed, Parliament communicated on the 7th of May to members where we received correspondence from the party that says we are not attending the event for reasons that they have advanced. And Parliament responded to acknowledge that communication and likewise indicated that as per your advice that you are not attending, Parliament will accordingly prevent incurrence of wasteful and fruitless expenditure, which Parliament is required in terms of the Financial Management of Parliament and Legislatures Act to ensure that it proactively acts to prevent that. So that communication indeed sends that response to the party concerned. But what it means is that that was the communication. If Parliament received a communication that says we are attending, Parliament would ensure it activates booking for members of parties. So it is not a choice of Parliament to prevent members to come. No, it is a plan of Parliament not to enable members to come. So on correspondence that advises Parliament communication, we are attending, Parliament will activate respective members to be able to attend, taking into account all logistical implications. So we are keen to receive all members by today to make sure that tomorrow proceedings run smoothly. We're not running up and down before the proceedings at 10. So we would encourage all parties to be able to be present in line with the list that must be sworn in by tomorrow to constitute properly all proceedings. How many guests will be coming? Like we said, we will be able to see guests as they come, but this is distinct from SONA, where you will have invitations of former heads of state and all of those. This is the first sitting of the House, both houses, rather. Then there will be requests by guests. We may not have that stats now to say how many guests. What we do know is that for purposes of members of Parliament, in line with the formula that allocates for parties, there is expectation that they will bring guests. So we have allocated 50 guests that will be distributed proportionally to political parties to be able to have their guests as members of Parliament. Is there a date for the completion of Parliament building? If there's one thing that Parliament has done is to regularly communicate and update members of the media on the timelines involved on the refurbishment of Parliament, the timelines involved on the rebuilding of the gutted buildings of Parliament. So we have been outlining that. We envisage that by 2026, by April, we would have concluded the reconstruction of a completed new building of Parliament. We have recently outlined the design models for the building, and there's work currently taking place in terms of the demolition, which we announced a contractor in May, at the first week of May, to start the demolition part. So that work will be completed as we envisage by September, so that a new contractor can then be announced to be able to undertake the work that it must assume its work by early January next year, the actual reconstruction process of the new building. So we shall keep you updated all the time around this matter. The issue on the update of MK tickets, I have covered the logistical issue. Should there be any other matter, my colleagues will respond and I will invite Mr. Kaso to deal with the voting. He's drawing my attention on something that he is controlling me on. So in terms of the political parties, as of this morning, we have received indication from concerned political parties, meaning there are 3 procedures involved in replacement of members. There will be a member who is supposed to assume his or her seat, but indicates that I am no longer available to take that seat. So each party has got a list that we have received from IEC, and that party shall have secured, for instance, 10% of the vote. That translates into 28 seats or whatever the number is. So member X is not available, is member number 14 in that 28 list party. Then the process draws itself in. Number 14 not available, number 15 becomes number 14, and number 29 becomes 28. So that is the vacancies that must be filled, and that will happen in the ordinary course of filling vacancies for the entire 5 years. In the life of Parliament, there will be people leaving, whether they demise or they are moved elsewhere. That process indicates. In the same life of 5 years, you would have people in a party that might have 3 or 5 names, and that party list may be exhausted as a list. So there's a process to supplement the list where members will be able to say, our list is exhausted, we must now supplement. That procedure is also enabled. And those who have not been sworn in will be sworn in as time goes on. Like I indicated, as of this morning, we have received communications from various parties regarding both supplementation and filling of vacancies, totaling about 20 members already this morning, where there's been instances of filling of vacancies or supplementing. The following changes have been made to the party list. For instance, the MK party, 7 members, the EFF, 10 members, Action SA, 1 member, DA, 1 member, and the UDM, 1 member. So you could see that it affects all parties and is in accordance with the rules that guide the replacement either by filling or supplementation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Glasso said that I must adjust the microphone downward. Because we don't want to be discriminatory against the vertically challenged.
Just keep pushing it down. All right, regarding voting, firstly, I think we should indicate that the rules applicable are the rules of the Chief Justice tomorrow. That is for the swearing in of the members, should be the first item, and the election of office bearers. That will be the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the President. So once members are sworn in, which we think will be taken in groups of 10 to the extent possible, we will then proceed to the election of office bearers, starting with the Speaker. So the procedure is as follows. There will be nominations. So there will be someone that nominates, and that nomination must be seconded. And the nominated person must accept the nomination, must be completed properly. And of course, Chief Justice must satisfy himself that it's been completed correctly. If there is no contestation, obviously the person nominated is declared elected. But if there is contestation, we will then break for voting. Why do we break? It's because we must print the ballot papers. You can't print the ballot papers before you get people nominated. So ballot papers are only printed once you get the nominated individuals. It's going to take us about 45 minutes to print the ballot papers. And the voting itself, I think, combined the printing of the ballot papers and the actual voting should be about 2.5 hours. We hope it won't be beyond that. And of course, that will be overseen by the Chief Justice. We have ballot booths ready, ballot boxes ready. Once that is done, we then remove all the voting material, well, the ballot papers in the ballot boxes, to a counting room. The counting, of course, which will involve the returning officer, but again, presided over by the Chief Justice. So Chief Justice will be present there as we count the votes as the returning officers. Come back, once that process is completed, the Chief Justice then announces the outcome in specific terms. So, so many people voted, so many votes were spoiled, and candidate so-and-so got 100 votes, candidate so-and-so got 50 votes. The issue of elimination has been explained, so I won't go back there. Yeah, so that is the procedure in terms of voting, and I think that answers the question. Of course, the person who obtains the majority of the votes cast is the person that is elected. So, of course, the vote cast will be valid votes. That will not include the spoiled votes. That's it. Thank you.
As I'm inviting the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces to also come forward, may I apologize, colleagues, that we have to let the Secretary leave because he has to receive the Deputy President who's about to arrive now. So if we can allow him to take leave, as I invite the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces to come forward.
Thank you very much. I just want to deal first with the voting in the National Council of Provinces. I know that the focus is on the National Assembly, but the National Council of Provinces is also sitting on Saturday, and they will also be voting there. As indicated, the provincial legislatures are sitting at the same time as the National Assembly to enable them to designate permanent delegates to the National Council of Provinces. In the National Council of Provinces, the voting would be for the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, as well as the deputy chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. In the National Council of Provinces, as the Secretary has indicated, each province has 10 representatives, and the voting in the National Council of Provinces in this instance for the chairperson and the deputy chairperson would be along the provincial lines. So each province will have one vote. So for the vote to carry the day, you should have at least 5 votes. So the person who would be nominated and who would receive 5 votes or more than 5 votes would be a duly elected chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. That will also apply insofar as the deputy chairperson is concerned. So unlike in the National Assembly, it's not individual votes, it's votes in terms of the provinces. So we will have 9 votes, unlike in the National Assembly where we would have individual votes. Why the National Council of Provinces is not sitting in its house? Because the house was not affected. Indeed, we had intended that the National Council of Provinces should sit in its house, and it would have been ideal for us at least to have the sitting of the National Council of Provinces in its house, because that would properly orientate its own delegates in their house. But unfortunately, you know that building was built in 1800 or so. It's a very old building. There are still some repairs that needs to be done in the National Council of Provinces, And that is why we are not sitting in that house. Otherwise, we would have preferred to sit in the National Council of Provinces so as to properly orientate the permanent delegates as well as the special delegates in the House. And in addition to the 90 representatives from the provinces, just for the sake of completeness, we also have 10 representatives of organized local government. Those 10 representatives of organized local government can participate in the proceedings of the National Council of Provinces, can ask questions, but they do not have the right to vote, precisely because they belong to municipal councils. So that is how the National Council of Provinces is constituted. I know that sometimes it is a house misunderstood. It is a house that is not properly understood. It's normally compared to the National Assembly, but it has its own proceedings, it has its own processes, it has its own voting procedures, it has its own voting processes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Advocate Pindela. I thought that we agreed that we are closing. Is there some agent question that has since? I think the STP dealt with that one. The attendance of the members of the public. Yeah. Because the SCP said that the one that we normally reserve for the members of the public is the State of the Nation address and others. But we have received some of the requests that we are attending to from members of the public. But we do have representatives of various stakeholders, guests of members, and so on and so forth. I think in closing, to state that, as I said this afternoon, the Chief Justice will be administering oath and affirmation for the returning officers who will be acting as electoral officers for the voting in both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. It's a very important occasion, but we will have only space for photographers and TV cameras for that, and we'll inform you, for those who are interested, on the WhatsApp group and the other platforms, so that you can capture that as it happens. Yeah, we will there. Both sittings are starting at 10 in the morning. There is a limited number of journalists that we are working with the Parliamentary Press Gallery Association to determine who will be accepted or admitted in the chamber. And then others will be, there is a space, media center, where you will have the screen and everything, and then you will see everything that is happening in the main chamber. But we will communicate all the details on the WhatsApp group and other platforms. I think we are done. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your attendance. The press briefing is adjourned.